Okay.
Okay. There are different asset classes in terms of you can buy bonds. Yeah. You can. So alternate investments की जब हम बात करते हैं, then we have invoice discounting. Then we have
Commodities.
commodities. Then you can invest into asset lease. Now we have unlisted securities. You can
Okay.
invest into startups.
अच्छा.
Then blockchain, cryptocurrencies. So there are too much to absorb for every set of audiences, whether it is a retail investor, whether it is an HNI, whether it is an ultra HNI, whether they are family offices. So when you look at perspective, कि इतना सारा ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करने को, डाइवर्सिफाई करने को, एंड नॉट टू मेंशन रियल एस्टेट. Real estate is again a very, very critical component which people either they choose to ignore or they want to ignore, but
or they simply can't buy.
Yeah. But the realization is the early you buy and have patience, it is going to yield a good return.
For all the asset classes?
Every asset class, P is important, which is patience.
Okay.
And then another P is purpose.
Okay.
And then is greed. So I would stress on PPG. Patience, purpose, and greed.
Okay.
Any investor, if he absorbs these three things, he is in for a good ride.
Okay.
Life will be better because you can't punt. When I say you can't just trade everything that you have as an asset class. No, there are certain aspects in life when you trade, you do intraday, or you become a broker or you become a channel partner. But again, that's the sub part of the header that you have.
Okay.
But at the same point in time, making right decisions with which asset class is suiting your appetite. Is individual decision.
Okay.
Or the family decision. Because when you invest into mutual funds, you can't expect double or 3 times or 5 times in a span of 1 year.
Yeah.
You need to give patience. You need to have understanding whether I'm investing into a right category of mutual funds or right category of an alternate investment, or right as a matter of fact, when you do startups, startup doesn't grow overnight. Every asset class takes depth. It takes their own time to mature and then yield good results.
Yeah. So अगर आपसे पूछा जाए तो आप कौन सी एसेट क्लासेस में ज़्यादा सजेस्ट करते हैं, या आप अपना पैसा भी जब इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो which are your favorite asset classes?
See, my first favorite asset class is mutual funds.
Okay.
Because that gives me time to not monitor markets every day. Second asset class is capital markets. You invest into fundamental blue chip companies and let it grow.
Okay.
You can't just buy today and sell tomorrow, which I don't want to. I would rather stay when I make an investment. And the third very good asset class that I advocate is to invest into potential startup ecosystems.
Okay.
Whether through AIF route or whether approaching a broking outfit where if they can invest into secondaries of startups.
बट ये तीनों ही जो हैं, अगर आप मेरे से पूछो तो आई वुड से कि ये तीनों ही हाई रिस्क वाली साइड पे आप चले गए हो.
करेक्ट.
मे बी cause I don't understand the industry, maybe cause I don't understand those asset classes, but बोला जाता है कि इक्विटी एंड स्टार्टअप बहुत ज़्यादा हाई रिस्क रहते हैं. तो लाइक यू वर ऑल्सो सेइंग कि आपको कौन सा एसेट क्लास आपको कंफर्टेबल है और किस में आप टाइम लगाते हो रिसर्च करने के लिए, वो बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है. What is your take on real estate? And then we'll come back to these three also.
See, investing into any asset class requires some amount of research, and that research comes with patience. Mutual fund also, because there are multiple AMCs available in the country. There are multiple schemes.
Hundreds of offers.
Absolutely. And you can't invest into every possible scheme available. So, whether it is equity, whether it is multi-cap, whether it is small cap, whether it is large cap, whether you want to invest into hybrid. So choose as per your appetite, choose as per your absorption power,
Like you said, PPG.
Yeah. And investing comes with strategies. High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. You take low risk and the reward is subsequently lesser. So high risk, high reward, every asset class has risk
Okay.
attached to it. And you need to understand there is always a disclaimer. Yeah. Nothing comes free of cost. Nothing comes easy. And you also want money.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very fascinating.
दूर से तो सारे एसेट क्लास ऐसे ही
बहुत
लगते
अच्छे
हैं
लगते हैं आपको.
एंड इवन स्टार्टअप्स में भी यू सी 300x 400x
Correct.
500x बट वो दूर से ही ज्यादा अच्छे
See,
लगते हैं.
every startup founder, says that I'm going to grow my business 100x, 200x, 1000x.
Yeah.
Investing into startups again, you need to understand the pedigree of founder,
Okay.
their growth, and later you come on to their multiples and price to equity, their growth strategy, their profitability, how are they expanding, what is their plan.
The TAM of the market.
Yeah. So there are a lot of aspects when you look at fundamentally, and there is some gut feeling also when you invest into a startup, because investing into a startup, the thing starts from an ideation stage. If you are with the founder at an ideation stage, you will have that kind of conviction.
Yeah.
With that conviction, if you invest and you believe in the idea, then that's something which is phenomenal. You invest at a different stage of startup when they've already raised seed round or their Series A and Series B and onwards. Then it's a different story.
Yeah.
It's a pre-revenue and then post-revenue. So again, all this doesn't apply to investment into mutual funds and capital market or real estate. But coming on to your second part of question, real estate. See, I had no conviction 10 years back into real estate.
Acha.
But now it's completely opposite, Gaurav. Now, real estate, for me, it's very, very critical.
Okay.
I come from a Punjabi family. I'm Nagpal. वो कहते हैं ना, एक छत होनी बहुत जरूरी है.
Yeah.
So that is not been taught to me. It's always felt.
But this is not a Punjabi thing. This is I think, an
globally.
Indian thing.
Indian
thing.
Indian thing.
कि घर तो अपना ही होना चाहिए.
Correct. So जब वो घर की बात आती है, I've always stayed in a joint family. Now I realize that real estate, we need to look at a very different perspective.
Okay.
It's a physical asset that you own, and it has a very different meaning to your life.
And probably the only physical asset.
The only physical asset that you feel and touch. Yeah. Rest all investments are, they are no snow. You're doing it on laptop.
Paper.
You can't buy, you can buy fractional ownership in real estate, but having a real estate and that investment that you live in, or you use that as a passive income for rental. But I think this is very, very strong.
Yeah.
Now I'm an advocate and I tell people, if you have an appetite, please go and invest into real estate. It can be residential, it can be commercial, or I think, please correct me, is there any other way of investing into real estate? Is it residential and commercial?
Residential, commercial. See, I would say investment is more towards commercial.
Yeah.
Residential is when you want to buy a home or a second home. Investment करने के लिए तो हमेशा commercial ही better रहता है. But what made that shift 10 years ago and now? Was it your research? Was it just a emotional thing?
Yeah.
Or was it the family pressure?
It's a mixed bag.
Okay.
When you know that you have exhausted with the asset class, I think you need diversification.
Yeah.
And let me educate the audiences also. There are multiple asset classes, but at one point in time, you would want something new. Real estate is not new investment.
No.
But when you diversify, real estate becomes an important component of your asset allocation.
Okay.
I'm talking holistically. Investing into real estate, people find alternatives. The fractional ownership of asset that comes into real estate is only because when people do not have surplus to invest.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, there are means and ways that you can invest into real estate.
Yeah.
You have a part of your own capital. You can take mortgage. You can take, of course, loans.
Yeah.
You can borrow some money from friends and families.
Yeah.
So there are means and ways. But if you're aligned towards a goal that you need to buy an asset class which is physical, like real estate, yes, go for it. It can be small, it can be big, depending upon, again, it's an individual decision or a family decision.
So अगर आपके पास चॉइस हो कि एक अच्छे स्टार्टअप में इन्वेस्ट करना है या एक अच्छे रियल एस्टेट में इन्वेस्ट करना है, तो आप वो डिसीजन कैसे लेते हो? इज इट स्टिल लॉजिकल डेटा बेस्ड अप्रोच या इमोशनल डिसीजन होता है? वो कैसे होता है डिसीजन?
So, investing into startup versus investing into real estate. Let me talk about investing into startup first. Investing into startup, there are fundamental and then there are personal approach that I have.
Okay.
So, fundamental, when you look at the growth numbers, when you look at their profitability, when you look at pedigree of founders, their expansion plan, this is one part. Second, and there is one connect with the founder. So, it's always good to have one-on-one with the founder to understand the business. Versus real estate. Real estate is one, it has emotional connect, to be honest. Second, purpose.
Yeah.
There are two ways. One, you want to buy a real estate and you want to stay in it.
Yeah.
You want a real estate to generate passive income or a rental income.
Rental income.
That's it. And I'm personally invested into a lot of startup ecosystem. Hold, and I continue to hold unless there's an exit.
वो स्टार्टअप्स में भी मैंने देखा है कि जैसे रियल एस्टेट में फ्रैक्शनल ओनरशिप आया, ऐसे स्टार्टअप्स के अंदर भी विद सो मेनी एंजल नेटवर्क्स कमिंग इन, नाउ यू कैन इन्वेस्ट इन अ स्टार्टअप विद 1 or 2 lakh रुपीज ऑल्सो. बट मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि उसके लिए ना एजुकेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है.
करेक्ट.
अगर आप किसी को सजेस्ट कर रहे हो कि आप 1 or 2 lakh रुपीज से स्टार्टअप में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो, बट अगर आप उनको ये एजुकेट नहीं कर रहे कि वो रिस्की कितना है, देन इट बिकम्स अ नाइटमेयर. मतलब बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो इन्वेस्ट कर देंगे बट एग्जिट स्टार्टअप में आपके हाथ में नहीं होता.
करेक्ट.
सेम आई थिंक रियल एस्टेट जैसा ही है, बट विद अ स्मॉल टिकट वैल्यू. अगर किसी ने अभी जर्नी अपनी स्टार्ट करी है और कोई अभी फर्स्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के बारे में सोच रहा है, तो उसको किस साइड जाना चाहिए?
स्टार्टअप के अंदर इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए, यस, यू वेरी राइट, you need to have a proper understanding of the asset class. That is one. You have a lot of platforms available online, angel network groups, platforms, which enable you to invest into a startup as small as 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 10 lakh, and multiple. We have intermediaries, we have wealth outfits, which enable people to invest into startup, not in a primary allocation, but as a secondary.
Okay.
And secondary can be in the form of whether it is coming directly from an ESOP holder as a liquidity. Because any startup which is at a mature stage of life, they would have ESOPs given to the key management people.
Yeah.
And the only way they would need liquidity or can have liquidity, either the company goes into IPO or they are open to sell in a secondary market.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where people like me and my company comes into play, where we enable people that we can provide you liquidity at the right valuation, at the right cost. So we educate people. This is where you can come, and we are the buyers, and then we place these inventories into to different investors, family offices. Yeah. So liquidity protocol is very important. Versus the real estate, everybody knows the market. It's diluted.
Yeah.
It's penetrative. It's scalable and it's available. But again, right education from where to buy that real estate, choose the right broker, right property, convenience, need, price tag, location, and then so on and so forth. So both have their own meaning, both have their own sentimental values, but people do invest into startups versus real estate.